And we are running, and we're now muted. Hopefully I'm not muted again. All right. We are going to start on our backs. So if you hear me screaming, it's because a bug landed on me, and I'm not a bug fan so much. I know, but I'm outside. I love it outside. Don't like bugs. Oh, worms. Oh God. If a worm crawls on me, I am gone. Class is over. Okay, so we're gonna start in our final relaxation pose, actually, our Savasana. We're going to lay in a way that your sacrum, your shoulders, and the back of your head are on the floor. So if your legs are out long, sometimes it's a little harder to get your sacrum down. I blame it on the booty. Blame everything on the booty. What the heck? You have to kind of tilt your pelvis a little bit more if your legs are out long. With your knees bent and your feet on the floor, it's a little easier, but you still have to tilt your pelvis. So you're taking out some of the arch in the low back. You can place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart or your chest. And you can close your eyes or take a soft gaze. You're going to check in with parts of your body that are touching the floor. You'll check in with the individual you brought to the mat this evening, afternoon. I don't even know what to call 4:30. You check in with the subtle movements of the breath. Notice the rise and fall of the belly and the chest. If you can notice any qualities of the breath. For me, my first couple breaths, I tend to hold them, or it's like if I have to think about the breath, I end up holding it. Then I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how to breathe anymore. Let's take your time. Then you can take a second to think of an intention for this practice, or an intention for the rest of your day. It could be an intention for your week. Can there be an intention for the next 5 minutes? It could be to be present. And now we'll try to start to lengthen and deepen the breath. So on the inhale, you're going to imagine the breath traveling in through the nose. Well, you shouldn't have to imagine that really, but to have it travel in through the nose and the breath traveling past the lungs to the belly. And then exhaling, everything softens. Maybe on the next inhale, you imagine it traveling through the lungs to the belly, to the hips or pelvis. Exhaling, everything softens. The next few breaths, maybe you can imagine the breath traveling, the inhale traveling to the knees or the feet or the toes. The breath travels and fills up the head and the whole body. And so moving very, very slowly, we're going to start to draw the right knee in towards the chest. So here, you can just interlace your fingers and hold on to the back, well, actually the front of your shin, Or if you want to use the strap, you can do that as well. The left leg can be bent with your foot on the floor, or you can extend the left leg long. So if the left leg is long, you can start to kind of work on opening up the hip flexors on the left hand side. But it's not required. And the right bent leg can be either straight in towards your chest, or maybe even rotated out slightly, so the knee is coming in the direction of your armpit. So it's not directly in towards your chest, it's more out. So if you are kind of one of those people that have natural turnout, this might be a little bit more comfortable for you. And then we're just noticing the breath. Notice your belly maybe pressing into your right thigh as you inhale. Now here, if you want, you can try to bring the knee even farther out to the right. And if you want to use the strap, you can extend the right leg. If you can find the strap. So if you're using a strap, you can hook just the ball of the foot. So we try not to put a lot of pressure on the arch of the foot, only because depending on how hard you have to pull, you can maybe kind of hurt the arch a little bit. You can extend the heel out and push the heel away. And if you don't really want to hold your leg in the air, you can place a block or a bolster or a pillow, or your dog, or make your child lay down right there. Your friend, invite somebody over. Then your body can relax a little bit more, and this becomes a more restorative type of posture. And then maybe if you're flexy, your foot can come all the way to the floor. We're taking just a few more breaths here. We'll start to bend the right leg, bring it in towards the chest again. If you can reach for the outside of the right foot, and you're going to kind of straighten your leg, press your foot into your hand, and then allow your knee to come back down towards the ground. We're going to do that 2 more times. So we're pressing our foot into our hand, and then allowing our right knee to come towards the right armpit, towards the ground. 1 more time, pushing up into that right hand, and then allowing that right knee to come to the ground. So this is a half happy baby. That would be kind of like a melancholy baby, maybe half happy, kind of mediocre baby. I don't know. Contented. I think this is what allergy medicine and waking up from a nap brings you. I mean, I'm kind of silly to begin with, but Now, if the half happy baby is uncomfortable and you want to just hold on to the back of the thigh or the knee, you can do that as well. We'll release the right foot. You can set the right foot down on the ground or the floor for a moment. You can grab the strap again and hook your foot, or you can reach for your foot, and we're going to bring the foot across the body. So we're twisting our foot towards the left. You're going to roll kind of over onto that left hip. And again, here you can put a block or a bolster or blanket or cushion underneath your right foot. Some people can still reach their foot with their hand. I cannot. Well, I probably could, but it wouldn't be very comfortable. We're going to be here for a little bit. Kind of focusing on the breath. Inhaling way down into the bottom of the abdomen where we're actually kind of squeezing and twisting right now. Some teachers will say we're massaging the internal organs. So it kind of creeps me out, but if you want to look at it that way, perfect. Just a few more breaths here on this side. We'll then uncross here, untwist. You can remove the strap for a moment. You can come back to your Savasana, your final relaxation pose with the legs out long, or you can have your knees bent and your feet on the floor. Just gonna check in and notice. Notice any shifts, notice any sensations on the right-hand side or the left. And we'll start to bend the left knee. You can hold on to the left shin. You can extend the right leg long if you'd like. The thigh can come in towards the chest or kind of out to the left, towards the left armpit or left side of the rib cage. You can hold it with one hand, you can hold it with two, you can hold it with your strap. That's one thing I should have mentioned on the first side was that we want to be able to hold on to it in a way that's not creating more tension somewhere else. So if you have to have a like death grip on your leg and it's really uncomfortable and you know you're just doing all you can to balance, kind of defeats the purpose. So hopefully you're not experiencing that. And if you are, try to find a way to hold on to your knee without having that tension. What's that saying? Guess what? Chicken butt. There you go. You can use this strap here. And we're going to bring the left leg out to the left side. And start to let it come out to the left. Take your time. You can just hold the knee and hold the left leg out to the left. You can hold the knee first if you want. Or if you're ready to move right into the straight leg, go ahead and do that. Just a couple more breaths here. Then we're going to bring the left leg back towards the center. You can hug it in towards your chest again. And move into that half happy baby once again. So you're reaching for the left foot, the outside of the left foot if you can. And you're going to press that left foot into your hand. And then soften and allow your left knee to come towards the ground or the left side of the rib cage, your armpit. And again, we're going to press into the hand. And soften, allow the knee to come down. And last time. And allow it to soften. And we'll hold here with half happy baby on this side for a little while. If it's like it's uncomfortable and you maybe do better bringing the knee out and the foot towards the groin, you can do that. It kind of affects some different places. Take just a couple more breaths. I'm kind of waiting to get pecked in the head here. We'll bring the knee in towards the chest. And then we're going to bring the leg across the body towards the right hand side. You're rolling to the outside of the right thigh. And if you have a block or something you can place under it to kind of help support you, it's a little bit nicer. kind of funny, just on the other side of this fence here that I'm next to, there's like a grass and a little sandy spot, and the chickens love to take little dirt baths in it. So I hear like cluck, like little clucking, and then I hear wings flapping. So they like roll in the sand and then they shake and flap their wings so that the sand kind of either gets in everywhere or gets out of everywhere. I'm not really sure, but I think it's adorable. So just a couple more breaths. We're going to start to untwist here. Release that left foot. Make it back into the middle of your mat. I've kind of migrated off the mat here a little bit. Come back to the position that we started in. So your sacrum is on the floor. So it's the triangle shaped disc piece here at the bottom of the spine, right before the tailbone. And then you can bring one hand to your belly and one to your heart. And we'll check in. Noticing again for any shifts or changes. Okay. We're going to start to slowly roll over onto our bellies. Just kicked that pallet. And we're going to put our forehead down on our arms here. So your elbows are wide and your forearms are overlapping, or your wrists are overlapping. And you can rest your forehead down. You can either take the heels together and the feet wide, or bring the big toes a little bit more towards each other and let your heels fall wide. So this is baby crocodile. So you have the option to stay here, stay in this position as long as you want, or you can start to move the elbows back towards your body so they're underneath your shoulders. So they can be in front of your shoulders or right directly underneath, but you don't want them behind your shoulders like cobra, because that takes a lot more work. We just want to affect the connective tissue and not the actual muscles. I mean, yeah, it's nice to kind of strengthen them and tense them and then relax them, but in cobra you would just be kind of tensing them the entire time. If you want, you can rest your head in your hands or on a bolster. And notice if you're tensing up any other places in your body, your jaw, your thighs, even if your low back is tensing up in this position. So try to notice that. And if it's something like your low back, see if you can maybe lower yourself down a little bit, kind of take a less aggressive maybe posture, somewhere a little bit with the elbows a little farther forward. You're going to try to allow that body part that is tense to soften. And so the body parts can't be softened by muscling them into softening. You can't force it. So just see if you can relax it. I've definitely had some times where the poses, especially kind of back bendy stuff, I carry a lot of anxiety about my back after breaking it as a 19-year-old. I'm always afraid I'm going to do something to it again. So a lot of back bendy postures I'm very nervous about. So for me, I have to mentally concentrate on, allowing it to go, to relax, to soften. And then sometimes it's a matter of, being supported, not going the farthest, deepest back bend right off the get-go. So we'll lower down. Okay. And then we're going to bring the left knee, it doesn't matter. One of the knees up alongside the body, like true to form. I said right and moved my left, but and then you can start to move your elbow towards that knee. So you're taking so for me, my left elbow and my left knee are close together, and the right side of my body is lengthened. You can lower down. This is kind of a good neutral posture after a back bend. Sometimes our reflexive reflex action is to kind of do the polar opposite. So if you're doing a back bend, then you immediately want to do a forward fold, and that's kind of a sign that maybe you went a little too deep. You should do something more neutral in between. We'll start to bring the left knee down, bring your upper body back towards the center of your mat. We can move into a deeper variation of this back bend. So you can, again, be here with your elbows underneath your shoulders. You can start to extend the arms so your arms are straight. This is much more compression in the low back, compaction. And this is a lot of work for me. Don't like that one as much. But you can also add some compression and maybe some difficulty to the pose if you want to just bend the legs, bend the knees. So, or you can go back to your baby crocodile. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to kind of listen to the body that you are given today. Because it's definitely probably not the same body you had yesterday, nor will it be the same body you have tomorrow. Not sure I put my mat in a good place. There's like all these ants crawling on it now. Another trick is to see if you can do the back bend or do the pose and still maintain a deep breath without contracting any other muscles. My telltale sign that I've gone too far is I clench my jaw. But then again, I do that. I'm sometimes just thinking too hard. So just a couple more breaths here. See if you can make them long, deep breaths. And then we're going to slowly allow ourselves to come down. And we're going to bring the opposite of whatever leg you had up last time. So for me, I had my left leg up. So my right leg now I'll bring alongside the body. Start to bring my right elbow towards my right knee. Can rest my head on my left arm. The left side of my body is now long. Do just a little bit longer in this position. We'll start to move back to the center of our mat. You can push back to child's pose if you want. But the next pose we're going to move into is the belly squish. So you take your bolster, your cushion, your rolled up blanket, you're going to place it on your mat about halfway. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to lay over the bolster with our belly, kind of like belly button pressing down into the mat. And so you have a couple of options. You can just lay over it and stay there. You can also cross your arms like this while you're laying over it to kind of stretch the shoulders a little bit. And so your hands will be between your chest, or your arms will be between your chest and your chin. So I'm going to, I'll tell you when we get halfway. And so if your arms are crossed, you can cross the other way. Sometimes if you have a block, that's nice for your forehead, so you don't have to hang your head down. Just a few more breaths here on this side. And if you can, send your breath between the shoulder blades. So inhaling to the space between the shoulder blades. So if your arms are crossed and you want to change the crossing of your arms, you can do that. Now it feels really weird. Just a little bit longer here on this position. Sending the breath between the shoulder blades, sending it to the belly, the low back. Okay, we'll start to take our arms out from underneath. You can push yourself back to child's pose. You can take a down dog if that's what you're into at the moment. You can take some cat and cow. Okay, we're going to move into either pigeon or figure four. So pigeon, if you want to do pigeon, well, it's actually swan and yin, but if you want to do pigeon, you would bring your knee forward towards your wrist, straighten the other leg, kind of lift it up and back, and lower yourself down. If you wanted figure four, you're laying on your back with your feet on the floor and your knees bent, and you cross the one leg over the other. I'll do that one real quick. That one is more like this. And then you can use your strap or your hands and reach for the back of the thigh. So this one here, takes the compression out of the low back, but you don't get into the hip flexors. It's all in the leg. So it's depending on what you are looking for. So your choice, whichever one that you want. If you're in swan, so some people will have their shin parallel with the front of the mat. That is pretty difficult. So you find kind of an area in between where your heel is kind of moving towards your hip flexor on the other side. So you can stay up, it's like a proud swan, or you can start to lower yourself down, which is a sleeping swan. So your choice. Now, if you feel numbness, tingling, shooting pain, the shooting, burning, or like electrical type pain, you want to get out. Now, if it's just numbness, you can wiggle your toes, wiggle your feet. You can slightly move out of the position. You can find a different position. And we're going to be here for a couple minutes. So you want to be able to find a position that you can hold for a little while. If you are in a sleeping swan position, you can start to walk your hands underneath your shoulders here. You can, wow, my leg does not want to come off the ground. You can kick your bent leg back. You can take a child's pose. You can take down dog, kind of whatever counter pose feels good to you at the moment. If you were laying on your back and doing the figure 4 variation, maybe you want to take a moment in Savasana, and then we're going to move on to the other side. So whatever variation you took. And And you can bring the other knee forward. Walk the other straight leg back. You can be in proud swan for a moment, or you can start to come down into a sleeping swan. I almost said a sweeping sweeping swan. I can't even say my screwed up stuff right. If you're gonna have a swan around, you might as well have one that does something besides looking pretty. Again, look for areas of tension that you may have created during moving into this pose. So maybe it's your jaw or somewhere in your leg. Just 2 more minutes here on the side. One of the interesting things to notice during poses that are long and quiet, like this one, is what your brain says, what your brain is thinking about during these poses. You know, is your body saying something, or is your mind, you know, speaking for your body? Is it wondering when it's time to come out? Have you gone somewhere else? Are you making lists? Are you planning something? Are you rehearsing something for later? Are you, you know, going over something from the past? I think the idea of a mental rehearsal is kind of funny. I like to think about it as I think about it often as just worrying, but to say that you're just mentally rehearsing what's coming up is kind of neat to think about. All right, we can start to come out. So one option is to shift onto your hip and bring your other leg around in front. But if you want another down dog or anything like that, you can do that as well. Child's pose, any of those variations. So if you have your strap handy, you're going to lengthen your legs down long here. And you're going to use the strap on the balls of your feet. You're going to sit up tall and you're going to hinge forward. So this is my hinging forward. Not very hingy, but it's all good. Take a slight bend to your knees if you'd like. You're kind of bringing your chest forward. So we're not just rounding, because I can bring the top of my forehead, down towards my knees, but I'm not, it's actually putting more strain on my lower back. So I want to keep my chest lifted and hinge forward. Come to the side here. So keeping the back straight. Sometimes having a blanket right behind, just behind the seat bones allows your pelvis to tilt forward a little bit easier. So again, the difference is, this, which puts a lot of pressure on my low back, versus this, which is a lot more work, but you're getting the stretch on the backs of the legs. You're not putting extra pressure on the low back. You can always close your eyes during these poses. Check in and notice sensations. Poses like pigeon, or the ones that are kind of more uncomfortable maybe for most people, it's interesting to look at, your brain will start to say, oh, gotta get out, I gotta get out, I gotta get out. And then you ask, why? Does something hurt? And you're like, no, but I need to get out. So like for me, in poses like Warrior One, in a flow where maybe the teacher has us hold a pose, or Warrior Two, so where your thigh is getting a lot of work, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get out. I can't do this any longer. But then you realize, like, it's not pain, it's just effort. And it's kind of pushing through what your brain is saying, because unfortunately our brain isn't always correct. You don't actually have to get out. Take just a couple more breaths here. Maybe if you can hinge a little further, try for that. And then we'll release. So the counter pose to this one can be bringing your hands behind your back. You can open up through the heart. You can bend the knees and kind of windshield wiper the knees. Listening to body parts crack and pop. They don't even know where those are. Okay, you can even do a reverse table or a reverse plank. Your choice. And then we're going to lay back down. And now if you have a block handy or a bolster handy, you should grab that. If you don't have a block, sometimes some of those, you can find some books about this size and place a blanket over it to kind of dull the edges. We'll lay down on our backs for some supported bridge. So if you have a block, kind of the second height, so first height, second height, third height, wildly uncomfortable height, not enough height. The second height, the medium height, is kind of, for me, the best one. I'm going to lift up my hips. I'm going to place the block right at my sacrum. And I'll kind of tuck my upper arm bones underneath my body, underneath my back. And my feet are flat on the floor. And I'm coming to a natural breath. So the back of the neck stays long, and the front, we're not like digging the chin into the chest. We're still trying to keep some space here in the front of the neck as well. So we're going to stay in this one for a while. And then if you want to work on the hip flexors, you can straighten one leg. You can eventually maybe even straighten both legs. But for now, we'll start with just the supported bridge. This one here feels really good on the low back for most people. So to make sure that your block or bolster or book isn't pressing into your low back. So it's at your sacrum, kind of just but barely below the waistband of your pants, probably. Unless you're wearing super high-waisted ones. And in that case, I don't know what to tell you. So just another minute more here, and then you can have a couple options to do the hip flexors or a supported shoulder stand, or both. All right, if you want to move into the hip flexor variation, you can extend the legs down long. And sometimes moving down to a shorter height is a little bit more comfortable here, or replacing the block for a pillow or cushion. This will add compression to the low back like we did when we were on our belly, doing baby crocodile and seal and those variations. So here's an option here. We will do some twists afterwards, so we're not going to end with this much compression in the low back. You can stay here for a while and then maybe move into a supported shoulder stand or kind of a legs up the wall variation. If you're near a bed or a couch, you can kind of turn around and put your calves on the bed, or your legs up against the bed, or a chair. Or if you're near a wall, you can put your legs up the wall. So I'm going to stay here in the hip flexor variation. Legs are out long. This is a great pose for really noticing the breath in the belly. Now, if you want to move into the legs up the wall position or the supported shoulder stand, you can do that now. So I have to move my bolsters or my blocks slightly to get my legs up. And you're extending the legs up towards the ceiling with your feet in a flexed position. It actually doesn't have to be flexed. You can point and flex, you can circle the ankles while you're here. You can hold. About another minute or so here. And then when you do want to come down, you can slowly take one leg down at a time. Come up onto the balls of the feet, lift the hips, remove the block, lower the hips back down. I love the feeling of when I remove the block and I bring my hips back to the floor. It's like the best feeling. Sacrum, shoulders, back of the head, all pressing into the floor. Again, just checking in briefly. And then if you want, you can bring the knees in towards the chest and rock side to side. I'm really trying to make an effort to kind of pause in between things. Well, for you guys, but for me as well, because I tend to just, in my life, I imagine a lot of us do this, is we just kind of run from one thing to the other without kind of experiencing that thing. So you can circle the knees. Change the direction of your circle if you want. Then we're going to move into our final twists here, a supine twist. So bringing your feet to the floor, you're going to bring your hips to the right side of your mat, and let your knees fall to the left. So your hips are stacked. If you were looking up if you're looking down from the ceiling or the sky, you would see just the right hip. Now, if that's possible, it isn't necessarily always accessible. If you can put a bolster underneath your left hip or your left thigh rather, that might make it a little bit more supported feeling, and the twist isn't quite as extreme. So find some place that's comfortable for you. We want to have our shoulders and upper back on the floor. So your knees are to the left. There would be a straight line from the top of your head straight through to your pelvis. And then your hips are to the right and your knees are to the left. You might find you start out with your knees on the bolster or block, and then eventually your body starts to open and you can bring your knees to the floor. If you want to add to this and get the twist up into the cervical spine, you can take your head and look over your right shoulder. Some people will not find that comfortable, and so you don't have to do it. We're going to be here for about 5 minutes. And it seems like a long time, but a lot of the poses that we do are almost 5 minutes long. So it'll go by fast. If you kind of want to add to this twist a little bit, you could reach back with the right hand for the left foot. Could reach for the right thigh with the left hand. This is the only pose that makes me actually think of pretzels. Just a couple more breaths here. If you have any binds, you're holding onto the feet or the knees, you can release those and untwist. Bring your hips back towards the center of your mat. Moving slowly. You can notice here for a moment and then eventually pick your knees up. If you want to circle and rock, you can do that now. There's one of those white caterpillars kind of 6 inches from my mat, and I scared it, and now it's in a ball. But now I keep having to keep looking for it because I don't know if it's the kind that like have poison or something. I don't know. It's a bug anyway. Putting our feet back on the floor, we can bring our hips to the left this time and let the knees fall to the right. Again, if you need a bolster underneath the knees or a block or just a little support, even just a blanket. Having the support there, then your body can actually, and your nervous system can say, okay, we've got that, she's got this, he's got this, we don't have to actually put any effort in here. We can just relax and let this stretch happen. So you can actually go deeper into a pose with support. If you want to kind of keep this twist going and turn your head to the left, you can do that. Look over your left shoulder. Again, look for any areas of tension. If you want to increase the stretch, you can cross the legs. You can reach down for the foot. Your right foot with your left hand. It's much harder to get on this side. And your thigh with your left thigh with your right hand. Just a few more breaths here on the side. Now, if you're in some kind of bind and you can release the feet, release the thighs, uncross, untwist, come back to the center of your mat. You can hug the knees in towards the chest and rock. You can circle the knees. You can do one more pose, or you can move directly into your final relaxation pose. So the one more pose that you can try is you can take a blanket, roll it. I mean, and this can be your final relaxation pose as well. You can roll it, and you're either going to put it lengthwise on your mat. I rolled it, and then it fell apart. Roll it up fairly tight. It shouldn't be huge. And you can place it lengthwise your mat like this, or you can put it across the mat. So if you put it lengthwise, you're going to sit back or lay back onto it. So your head can be on the floor or on the top of the blanket, and your hips will be on the floor. If you have it across your mat, you're going to want it right behind your shoulder blades. So it's laying on it here. So it's not at your low back. It's opening you up through the heart here. And then your arms can be out to a T. They can be overhead. Having them overhead increases that sensation, and it can also kind of open up the shoulders. So whatever variation you like. If your head is too far back and that's uncomfortable, you can place another pillow or a block or a bolster, something under your head. So it's still getting that heart opening sensation, the chest opening. Your legs can be out long, or they can be bent, or they can be Baddha Konasana, which is the feet together, knees wide. Anything you want. So you have the option to stay here for about a minute or two, or you can hold in this position, stay in this position for the entire final relaxation, which will be a total of maybe about 5 minutes. So if it's too much to hold for 5 minutes, then definitely find something a little bit more supportive. If your knees are over a bolster or up on a chair or on the back of the bed, that might be better for your low back. For those of us that carry a lot of tension in the low back, which is like most human beings, I would assume. If you want to move into a different final relaxation pose, you can do that now. You can take any movements that you need to get comfortable. So maybe it's another down dog, maybe it's the knees to the chest, any kind of position like that. One thing that feels really good on the low back that I mentioned earlier is taking a chair or sometimes your bed, depending on how high it is. Definitely your couch. Most couches are kind of awesome for this. You place your legs, your calves on the seat of the chair so that your low back is actually flat against the floor. So this is a really comfortable one. My mom was having low back pains, and so she would lay like this in her house, and I guess she said she'd fall asleep like this all the time. So we're going to take a few moments to lengthen and deepen the breath. Again, inhaling through the nose and sending your breath all the way down past the lungs to the pelvis, to the knees, to the feet. You're filling up the head and the whole body with breath. On the exhale, you allow everything to soften. Inhaling, filling up the whole body. Exhaling, allowing everything to relax. We can start to make some small movements, wiggling the fingers and toes. And gently rock the head side to side. Make bigger movements, wrist and ankle rolls, even taking a big stretch with the arms overhead. Now, depending on your prop configuration, you might want to take some time to come out here. So you remove your legs off of the chair. If you're on a chair, you can roll to one side. And just another moment of stillness here. I want to kind of keep this mellow vibe going, so we're not just catapulting ourselves upright and pushing your hands into the floor or your mat or props here. You're going to come all the way up to a seated position. And find a neutral spine, a long neutral spine, and we'll bring our hands to our heart. Now, if you set an intention at the beginning of practice, and then you can still remember it, bring it into your mind. If you forgot what your intention was, make up a new intention. And now we'll thank ourselves for being here and practicing together. May we all feel loved. May we all feel grateful. May we all feel connected. And may we have the strength and courage to overcome all obstacles before us. From my heart to your heart, peace and namaste. Thank you, everyone.